Hello from Sarah and welcome to my crochet course. Today I'd like to show you how to make a traditional granny square in crochet. This is one of the most famous and best known techniques in crochet. So let's begin. I usually start with a magic ring. You can also start by chaining 4 or 5 or 3, depending how big or small you want the central hole to be. Anyway, and then close it into a ring by slip stitching into the first of the 3 or 4 chains. Anyway, how I do it is with a magic ring. This is how I make the magic ring. Very simply, I usually position my yarn like this, then I hold it in place with my left hand and I start working with my hook. I insert the hook into the ring, I grab the working yarn, bring it inside the hole and start working. In this case I needed to create 4 groups of 3 double crochets spaced out by 2 chains inside this ring. So I will start by making a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, which counts as the first double crochet of the first group of 3, and then I'll make 2 double crochet inside the ring. One and 2, and this is my first group of 3DC. Now I no longer need to hold the ring closed or in place with my hand because my 3 double crochets already hold the hole together. Okay, so I make chain 2 and proceed creating my second group of 3 double crochets inside the ring. 1, 2, and 3, followed by 2 chains. While I work, I can adjust the dimension of my central ring by pulling the tail a bit, not completely of course. And now I will make my third group of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, another chain 2, and I will now make my last group of 3 DCs. 1, 2, and 3. Followed by my last chain 2, which I'm going to attach to the first group of 3 double crochets, specifically by slip stitching into the third of the 3 beginning chains I crocheted in order to make my first double crochet. There you go. Slip stitch. Okay. And now it's time to close my ring by pulling the tail, and that's it. That's the beginning. Now what I usually do is I move with slip stitches towards this corner here. 1, 2 slip stitches, and the third I will make right into that space corner, and here I will cut off the yarn. Because I need to change color. Okay, as you see from the sample here, I'm going to change color each round. Okay, I'm going to cut to trim that beginning yarn here behind. Okay, and now we are going to attach another color, which is a white, to make it just like this square here. Okay, here we go. I am attaching it right here where I left off, because I want to crochet over the tail of my first color, this pink. So I insert the hook into that space like this. This is how I change color and how I attach a new yarn. I take the new yarn, the new color, position it like this on my hook, let a long-ish tail fall like this, more or less as long as the pink tail, and then I pull through the hole and start working into that space corner by creating the first of my groups of 3 double crochets. And as always, I will create the first DC by chaining 3. Okay, of course you can start with a standing double crochet or with other methods you prefer. I find in the end the chain 3 method is the easiest one and it doesn't look bad. So now I'll go on with 2 double crochets, and this completes my first group of 3 DCs. Then I chain 2 and create the second group of 3 double crochet inside that corner. So 1, 2, and 3. Now, before I close my stitch here, I will tug a little my tails. I bring the white tail and I bring it to the back of my work, making it slip between the hook and the working yarn so that it gets entangled and weaved in my work. Okay, and this is the same thing I will repeat here. Now I will make a chain 1. Before I do so, I will bring my tail to the back again, positioning it between the working yarn and the hook. See, I let it fall and I do my crochet, my chain 1. Now I am already at the second corner, where I will work again 2 groups of 3 double crochets spaced out by a chain 2. Again, I will bring the yarn to the back and weave it in between the hook and the working yarn. Now I yarn over because I need to prepare for my first double crochet, which I will do here. Okay, now before I close my double crochet, I bring the yarn to the front this time so that it gets right in between my work again. And now I yarn over and complete my stitch like this. Again, I bring the yarn to the back this time, yarn over to start my next double crochet, insert the hook, yarn over. Now I need to yarn over again in order to close the stitch. Before I do so, I bring the yarn to the front. Now I yarn over and close the stitch again. And this is something I do. Now again, I bring the yarn to the front and close the stitch. Now I need to do my chain 2. Again, I bring the yarn to the back. Now my movement is a little bit quicker because I've shown you how the movement goes, and I want to show you that this movement is rather quick and fast as you work, meaning it's a good technique to weave in yarn tails, yarn ends as you're working, so that you don't have to weave in too many yarn ends at the end of the work. When you have so many, you surely don't want to waste time doing this boring job. Again, so this is my second group of 3 DCs, and I need to complete my last DC. As long as I have a tail that's so long, I will keep on weaving it in, and then I will cut it off. Okay, now I need to make a chain 1. And then I proceed. I am already at the second corner. Now I have a knot here. And I proceed creating my third corner in the very same way, weaving in its tail as I work. This is the last time I'm weaving it because it's now rather short. And now I'm proceeding working my granny square as usual. Okay. Chain 1 that separates the groups of 3 double crochets, while at corners the groups are spaced out by a chain 2, which is not so much visible at this stage. Chain 2, but it will be more visible as I proceed with my work. Okay, so now my last chain 1, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the first double crochet. In this case, at this stage I usually prefer to slip stitch not into the third of the chain 3 I made at the beginning that counted as 1 DC, but I'd rather slip stitch into the top of the second DC like this. And this is because I like it more, because I want this space to be just like the others, so not too large and not too small. So this is why I do it, but usually you would have to slip stitch into that first double crochet. And as I've shown you before, I move with slip stitches into my next corner space, and now I cut off yarn, leaving a longish tail to weave in at the end. So what I do now is to cut off the small yarn end I have woven in as I worked, as I've shown you. And usually I weave in this the yarn end of the first yarn I used, the pink one of the first color, with a tapestry needle, again because I don't want to do it all at the end of the work. So if I do it as I work from time to time after each round, I find it is not as boring and as frustrating as doing it all at the end. And with granny squares it is pretty easy to weave in the ends, because you have these very useful and curved arcs of stitches where it is very easy to insert your tapestry needle and hide your yarn ends inside. So in this video I'm actually showing you not only how to make a granny square, but a couple of useful tricks. I hope you find them useful to create granny squares quickly and to learn how to weave in ends as you work, and how to weave ends in the traditional way right at the end. So now time to cut this off too, and that's it. So what I do now, I'm going to make round 3, and again I am going to attach it here right in the corner where I've finished off with my second color. And this is what happens basically. So I will attach it here at one corner and proceed creating these groups of 3 double crochets spaced out by 2 chains at corners and 1 chain on the sides. And the bigger your work becomes, the greater number of groups of 3 you will have on the sides, of course. Okay, And every time I need to change color, I will do as I've shown you previously by working over both yarn tails at the beginning, at the corner, and then I will weave in the yarn end that's in the same color of the yarn I'm working in on that round. And then at the end of the round I will weave in the traditional way with a tapestry needle the one end that's left hanging on the back of the work. And that's the main story of it, I think. I hope you found these tips useful, and I'll see you next time with further tips and tricks on crochet. Bye bye.